The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. This video is a week in the life, as you see. This first day, I always try to start the day off reading the word of the Lord. It always centers me. I don't always do the best job of being consistent doing it, but I try to do my best. This day I'm just getting up, starting my morning. It was a struggle to get up, as you can see, but just starting my breakfast. I always start off with some oatmeal. First thing in the morning, I always measure it out the night before just to save myself as many steps as I possibly can. And then in the next clips, I started this new skincare routine that I have not done before. I got it from TikTok. I legit just went on TikTok and searched skincare routine because I just needed a little something because I felt like my skin was just starting to get dull and I scar easily. Like, I still get random pimples and stuff. Like, you can see that one right on, like, on the bridge of my nose next to my eyebrow. Not me trying to spray myself. I've never sprayed anything on my face before. But I just scar easily, and I just wanted to kind of get rid of the discoloration, as you see from that product. And thus far, I've used it for a little over a week now, and I've liked them. I feel my skin much more hydrated, much more alive. And the products were not that expensive, so it was a win-win. And I love that sunscreen thus far because not me struggling to open it up. But I was previously using a different sunscreen, and I was genuinely surprised at how good that one rubs in. Like, it doesn't leave a white cast at all, and that's kind of a big struggle with sunscreens typically. And then now I'm just gonna clean up my little edges before I head off to work and such. But yeah, this video is just, it was supposed to be a day in the life, but I'm a school nurse, and this was my first day back. I believe it was Monday, January 6th, and I had just finished Christmas break. We were starting back this day, and I just went to work, and it was a pretty boring day at work this day, and I just kind of forgot I was filming, and so it just turned into somewhat of a week in the life, but really it just goes over a few days. But I just needed something in the background because this thought has been on my brain that I wanted to talk about. And so, yeah, that's what we're just going to do. Talk about being a Christian and the struggles of it and the struggles of it all. Because lately I feel like as I'm trying to get off the lukewarm fence, it's harder than it used to be. Here is my outfit for the day. Don't judge me. That's my Walmart sweater. It's cozy, and don't judge the dirty mirror because my toddler loves to put her fingers on it. But anyways, I'm just headed off to work. And like I said, by the time I got to work, it was just a very boring day, catching up on emails and paperwork and organizing things and figuring out what reports I have to write when for kids, and just a lot of like, okay, I'm back. How do I do my job kind of a thing. So I totally forgot that I was filming. I even forgot to show you my lunch. I know in a few seconds it'll pop up my lunch. I was actually like kind of in the middle of a fast this day, so it kind of doesn't look that great or appetizing, so don't judge my lunch. But I know on top I have tofu, and I believe on the bottom was like brown rice, and then I did some vegetables. Like I baked. Yeah, like I just put some like mushrooms and bell pepper and some other stuff just on a baking sheet and baked it on up, and that was my lunch that day. And then the rest of the clips are just of my child. The clips of my child are just random clips because I didn't even record myself playing with her those days. That was actually a toy she got for Christmas that she really enjoyed. That was like the day after Christmas. She was just playing with the toy. But just a little transitional to get back before we get back to my next days of work. So you'll see me going back to work, and it was snowing. But just to preface all of this in the video so you know what's going on before I get into the main topic that I'm going to be talking about, which is the struggle of Christianity. Because I feel like I just have been struggling so much. So we're going to get into that. But yeah, like I said, I headed back to work again or home from work. I don't even know when I recorded this clip here, but it started to snow. I think I was going to work on Friday and it was starting to snow. And then the rest of the video, pretty much you'll see Saturday. It was Saturday that it snowed heavy in Chicago. So I just decided to get outside and get some exercise and be extra and shovel and do more shoveling that I needed to do. I like shoveled halfway down the block, as you'll see, just kind of for fun. And my daughter, as you'll see in this video, she is so afraid of, like, she was afraid of snow. The first time I ever put her in snow, she just stood, she'll stand there pretty much most of this time until she gets some courage and she starts walking. But the snow kind of scared her and she was like afraid to fall or walk, or she just didn't know what the heck was going on. She felt like she was in some alternate universe. So as you can see, she's kind of just standing there trying to figure out what the heck this is and what's going on. But eventually she gets the courage to start moving and she has some fun in the snow. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Woo! Okay, so does anybody else feel like God is just calling you to something? He's trying to enlighten you to something, to take you on a path that you never thought that you would go on. You don't know how the heck you got here, but once you went across the fence, like, and when I say fence, I describe it as like the lukewarm fence where you're kind of like living in sin and then you're kind of trying to be a better person, but then you realize like, no, you have to really make a decision and get off the fence and be as holy as you can be. But then when you do that, I'm going to read from Hebrews chapter 10. This starts with verse 32. It says, "But recall the former days when after you were enlightened, you endured a hard struggle with sufferings, sometimes being publicly exposed to reproach and affliction, sometimes being partners with those so treated. For you had compassion on those in prison and you joyfully accepted the plundering of your property, since you knew that you yourselves had a better possession and an abiding one. Therefore, do not throw away your confidence, which has a great reward, for you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what is promised." Let me tell you, when I saw that, it's like basically the main part is the beginning of it when it says, "But recall the former days when right after you were enlightened, you endured a hard struggle." Like, I don't know what it is, but after being enlightened, I think maybe it's you battling with yourself and your sinful ways that you're trying to get out of. But for some reason, life just be life, and it just seems like it's so much harder once you get off the fence and you try to be very holy. It's almost like you look back at the things that you gave up and you miss those things, and you're trying to figure out this new life while you're still physically living in your old life. But God says to put off the old and focus on the new, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. But it's so hard when you're still in the same environment that is not promoting your new life, and you're still kind of just adjusting to the new you and like what's going on and the decisions you're making and the way you're choosing to live your life. And I don't know, it's just, I feel like I've been seriously struggling. And I think also I realized I've never actually truly tried to fully rely on God in my life. I've always tried to get by on my own and make decisions here and there on my own, but now fully relying on God and turning down opportunities that I otherwise would have jumped on, it's a struggle mentally, like I never really have. So overall, I want to say, of course, being a Christian is worth it. I was praying about this title. I know this title sounds crazy to say, but God was like, nope, leave it there. This is going to be your title. So of course it's worth it. But I just feel like me and God are in a boxing match. I compare it to either boxing or wrestling. I feel like I've already how many rounds are in boxing? 12 or 14? I don't know. I feel like I've gone all the rounds and it just never ends. Every time you go to the corner and you sit down, you got to get back up and there's another round to do. And I feel like I'm in round 100 now and I'm just trying to figure out when it ends. And I guess it doesn't really end till you get to heaven, so I need to get over it. Or it feels like a wrestling match where you want to turn around and like tag team somebody in, but there is no one to tag team in. It's just you constantly this whole time battling. Or like the enemy just specifically targeting you more because he knows the promise that God has on your life. And he's just like, no, I see you trying, so I'm not gonna let you get there. Recently, I started becoming more consistent with journaling. And by journaling, I mean I type it up on my computer with like a journaling app, because it would take me way too long if I actually typed everything. I mean, hand wrote everything out. But I actually was writing notes over the past week about what I've been wrestling with. And it's so interesting how when you start your walk with the Lord, what I wrote in here was, it's tempting to give up and let go when you're really not hearing anything from Him. You're fasting and praying and you feel His love sometimes, but you almost feel more lost than when you were blind. And I say that because at least when I was blind, I was picking a direction, so I knew where I was going somewhat. Um, there was always one foot in front of the other. Even if I was lost, I had somewhat of the control. But now I'm lost and I don't have any of the control. And I think I just really needed to know a direction that I should go, what direction I should take, because um, yeah, I just really have been struggling lately with figuring out my path and what I want to do. And for example, even this YouTube video right here, right now, it sounds crazy. It sounds strange. If you read anything about the Bible, it talks about how all of God's followers will be you will be looking strange in these streets. Like, you are not supposed to, you're supposed to be in the world, not of the world. And the world tends to not like Jesus. So if the world don't like your Jesus, but they like you, it probably should be a problem. You know what I'm saying? This pastor I listened to was saying that, and I was like, that's so true. If the world don't be liking Jesus and the things that Jesus has to say in the Bible and the things that you should obey in the Bible, then people should probably come for you too if you're truly following the Lord and like whatever. So I'm doing that now because I've always wanted to do YouTube, for example, forever. And I always saw myself just being a regular schmegular vlogger. Didn't know how that was going to work out. But now that I'm being obedient and doing it, because I haven't done it because I've just been lazy about it sometimes, self-conscious about it. But now that I'm doing it, I feel like this is what I feel convicted to do, like what I felt convicted to talk about. And I also feel like, again, I don't want to do this in my own strength, because I don't want to constantly have to strive for the rest of my life just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it. Like, I'm just gonna let God tell me that for now. But basically, I am being obedient to Him now by doing this, because I never saw myself posting Christian Bible related content on YouTube. Like, I never did, but now here we are. So yeah, I have been praying for guidance, and I think that the guidance that I was getting is just not what I wanted to hear. Because like I said, journaling is becoming very important to me, as I'm seeing as my thoughts are changing, and what I think I want, is it really what I want? Did God really answer this prayer? How has He changed me? And for example, I've just been constantly praying on my career and trying to figure that out, and I've just been wrestling with it. Like, I think I had the worst wrestling match in my mind recently about what I should be doing, and I think God really just kind of wanted me to take a moment and to just see all the things that He has given me, all the things He has provided me with, and to just take a pause. And I've been seeing so much in the Bible about you can't serve two gods, and just about how you cannot make money your master. You can't serve money and God. That is Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. And I think I've really had to just take a pause over the last 2 years of my life, and to just take responsibility for the way I've treated money, and just understanding in general that what comes from God can't run dry. And just because God is not taking you on a path that makes sense, and by makes sense, I mean in a way that seems lucrative by the naked eye, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the wrong answer. So for me, I've gotten a lot of job opportunities to make more money. Gosh, it's so crazy. I just want to say, I don't even know if I should really say it, because they talk about how, especially in Matthew, I'm pretty sure it's chapter 6, about how when you fast, like, you're not fasting to tell anybody or to show anybody, like, but just for example with me, this is the first time in my life I've ever needed to lean on God truly, and to truly allow him to order my steps even when they absolutely are bonkers and they make no sense. Because I fasted recently, I just kind of felt the need to fast. The first day actually was that January 6th when I went back to work, and I was doing the Daniel fast, and I felt like I should just do it for 10 days. So that's what I did. And I kid you not, the very first day of my fast, boom, I get this job offer. And when I tell you, it was on paper the best job opportunity I've ever gotten in my life in terms of nursing. And if I had to be a nurse for the rest of my life, it would be that job, making that money. It was a work from home kind of a job. Like, it was perfect. And I wrestled with that. It was a friend that just sent me a message and was like, hey, I can get you in here. This girl quit. Boom, you're in. Like, it's an open opportunity now. I will email my manager for you right now. That kind of a thing. And when I tell you, I never felt God really opening the door for me to do that. And in my mind, I still have not personally been able to see how he can or will bring a career to fruition for me outside of in a 9 to 5 and going to work. But so it's so easy for me to want to do that. But thank God, like, I was fasting and I was very close to God, and it was one of the worst wrestling matches in my brain I've ever had, because I've never turned down an amazing opportunity because I felt like God wasn't opening the door. And in general, the things that I have been wrestling with were about, like, my career, because it seems crazy for me to not advance in my career anymore. Like, there's so many ways in nursing where I'm at that I could be advancing, and I'm choosing not to. And it's just because I don't feel God opening that door. And the thing is, sometimes the answer is no, and we just don't like the answer no, and so we ignore it. And so then that's your way of hardening your heart towards being able to hear God's voice to you. Because if he says no to you, then, like, but he ain't got nothing else to say. Like, the answer is no. But if you don't hear him, how can he order your next step? If you don't obey him, how can he order your next step? And this is why I say becoming a Christian almost is more difficult on the day-to-day, because at least before, you thought that you had, I think, like I said, the false idea that you really have control makes you feel better internally. But when you're just really truly free falling, allowing God to just order your steps, it can be scary, especially in the beginning when you've never done it before. So yeah, if I had not been on this Christian journey, I would have accepted that job in a hot minute, and I would have felt amazing immediately. But eventually it would have sank in that I would have been, a sad and unhappy, lost, still searching. But that immediate gratification of feeling like you have control and you at least know where you're going, it just feels better. And so I think without God, you get more immediate gratification, but then with God, you really have to just take your time. And it's a bit of a struggle when you just feel like you're truly, truly, truly free falling. And so I'm just kind of praying on that, because I swear I was looking back at my notes ever since I planned to do this video. And I was doing the weekend. I have so many different other things I mentioned in my notes. Whereas, for example, even like I've been wrestling with like the age of the earth thing and all these other like hypothetical things that Christians, whoever, like they argue about, and I just kind of gave up on all that stuff, like the denomination and just things like what, like I don't even know. Sometimes it can get a little bit too complicated, but that age of the earth thing really threw me for a loop when I first heard some Christians say, yeah, if you do the beginning, like from when God made Adam, and you count the years in the Bible of like people's ages and generations, and people have researched that stuff, well then the earth is only 6,000 years old. And I'm like, what? But then some people believe in evolution, they don't. And then I don't know. Honestly, right now, that's not my conviction with God, and it's not important because either way, regardless of all those details, if that's your ministry to research all that stuff, good for you, but it's not my ministry, and it don't matter. It doesn't matter to bring me closer to God regardless. So we're putting that on the shelf for now. It's great to ponder, but at the end of the day, what does it really matter? It doesn't really matter at all. But I was just wrestling with all this stuff, even with my salvation and just feeling condemned because I think once you feel convicted to stop doing certain things, when you do the things, you start to feel condemned about it. Like, dang, and then you're failing for so long, like months and maybe years go by, and you're still struggling with the same thing, and you're so sick of yourself. You just know God got to be sick of you. So then you start to just feel condemned, and I just was struggling with all of my convictions and stuff like that, and I just started to feel alone. Like, well, maybe I'm doing the most. Like, maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I don't know. I've struggled with that, but also I've struggled, I guess, with the idea of faith. You're saved by faith, not your works, but at the same time, you're supposed to not actively fall back into sin, but also you're saved just because Jesus loved you and he died on the cross, and as long as you have faith in that, then you're good. But there's also people who believe that Jesus died on the cross for them, but then they still out here sinning. But then, like, are they saved? So I just was like, well, where do I fall? But either way, I'm just trying not to feel super duper condemned or allowing the enemy to confuse my brain, but just to believe that I'm loved by God regardless. What I realized is that I'm struggling with the most. I underestimated the need for community and for people to really talk to who are like-minded Christians near me. I don't really have that yet, so I'm praying on that for God to provide that in due timing because it's difficult to wrestle on your own. But yeah, we ended the day at Sam's Club this day. Thank you so much for watching my video. Comment any of your thoughts below and just watch me and my husband argue over toilet paper like any married couple would do. What are you doing? We don't use that.
They just as good.
Not with toilet paper.
What I learned is that it all depends on the ply that they use. Hey, you're in the door. Don't forget, you get this cheaper. Offers in soon.